is just so fun for me to draw. I enjoy doing this. We're just going to review some parent functions, guys. We're going to name the function, sketch the graph. We are going to state the domain and range, always in interval notation for us in pre-cal. But guys, we're not going to do this part. I kind of got a little too excited about even, odd, and neither. So I'm just going to cross this out because we don't have to do this part. Not today, but we will next week. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at problem number 1. Remember, guys, what your Algebra 1 teachers tell you about f of x? It's the same as what? Y. So this is y equals a constant. C stands for constant. So I am just going to pick a number. Let's just pretend it was 5. Do y'all remember what kind of line that means? Well, all lines are straight. Horizontal. Yes. So this is called the constant function. And I'm just going to use my ID because I like nice clean lines here. So just going to kind of estimate where that would be here. And then look, how many arrows did I draw on my graph? If I drew 2 arrows, I have 2 infinities. So the domain is going to be all real numbers. So the domain is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. Yeah, no, I love writing that R because it's fun. Because, remember I do learning. But no, it has to be an interval notation. Remember, that's our standard. So yes, we can plug in any number for the domain, but there's only one range. What's the range? Very good, just a 5. What are we going to put around that 5? Brackets, great job. Okay, the next graph, f of x equals x. Do y'all remember that one? That's a line too. It's called the linear parent function. Let's write linear on here. And guys, the linear parent function is the only line that cuts the graph in half on the diagonal. So I'm just going to tilt this, draw my graph. There's my line. I'm going to draw 2 arrows. 2 arrows means 2 infinity symbols, so the domain is still all reals. What is the range? The same thing, all real numbers. Good job. All right, the next one. So the next one, we kind of talked about it yesterday. We called it a parabola. It is a parabola. The graph is called a parabola. But what is the parent function called? Yeah, starts at Q, quadratic. So when you draw this, guys, you got to make sure that it bounces off the origin. So draw your parabola the best you can. Make it bounce off that parabola, or the origin. Make it bounce off the origin. It goes up forever, so I drew an arrow on each side. 2 arrows, 2 infinity symbols. So this is negative to positive infinity. But the range is not the same for that. What is the range? 0 forever, right? And don't forget there's a bracket here. Okay, so there's our quadratic. Now we're looking at a cubic. So let's go ahead and write cubic here. And guys, for your cubic, I kind of draw my arrows first, then I connect them. Try to draw a little swirl, a little concavity change right here if you can. And then again, I drew 2 arrows. So it is negative to positive infinity for the domain. What do you think it is for the range? What is it? Yes, it's the same. Good. And guys, I'm going to stop for just a moment because I just want to give you a heads up in pre-cal. We care more about the arrows than the stuff in between. And what I want to point out to you guys is all of these are pointing up on the upper right, which is very purposeful because all of these equations are positive. All of your positive equations, all of your positive functions are always up on the right side. And that's always going to happen. Same for this one. Do y'all remember what this one is called? Yep, it's going to be up on the right too. Let's write absolute value. And then make sure it has a change in direction on the origin. I drew 2 arrows. That's 2 infinity symbols. But this actually has the same range as what? What is its range going to match? The quadratic, that's right. So let's write a 0 in brackets and then wrap it up with an infinity symbol. All right, who remembers the name of this one? Square root function. All right, guys, so for this one, what we are going to do is stop for a minute because I'm going to talk to you again because I love to talk. That's why my throat is sore. I don't know if you guys knew this, but what is that thing called with the x and y axis? It's called a coordinate. They intersect, yes. And you plot points on the coordinate grid. The coordinate grid is not the only graph out there. There is a whole other graph that exists for imaginary numbers. There's a whole nother graph that exists for logarithms. And there's a whole nother graph that you and I are going to graph on way at the end of the year for circles called a polar grid or a polar axis. So there's more than one coordinate grid. The coordinate grid is for real numbers only. So if there's only real numbers, then I can only take the square root of positive numbers. Do y'all remember what the square root of -1 is? It's I. It is. It's I. Remember I's? I's got crazy in algebra too. Yeah, the square root of -1 is I or negative I. Do y'all remember what the square root of -9 is? 3i or -3i. Yes. But we're only dealing, most of the time, we're only dealing with real numbers and pre-count. So y'all don't have to worry about those i's at all. So if you don't have to worry about those i's at all, then the domain is going to be from infinity. From 0 to positive infinity. We only want the roots of positive numbers, and you can take the root of 0. So this graph, we call this a branch when it doesn't go on forever. Looks like that. By the way, how many arrows did I draw? Just 1. Notice how I have just 1 infinity symbol. What's going to be the range for that? The exact same thing. Just like that. That's it. And y'all will deal with